Well, welcome to our library studio and our continuing presentation of the last word picture. And in so doing, we are going to now begin our review, hopefully for the last time, although who knows, as much as we're learning from it, of the 89th Mizmowr. And I used to say that exuberantly until I realized the role that I've had in composing it with Yahowah. And so I'm a little more cautious in saying that, although that is still my conclusion that it is the most important piece of literature that we will find among the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. It was comprised, as we know, in a collaboration between Yahowah and a man named Ethan Ha Ezrachy. Ethan Ha Ezrachy defines a character that has been part of God's story for a very long time. As of this moment, he is 5,400 years old in terms of the initiation of his soul. He was originally Enoch, and he has made many visits here over time. One of his most important, and maybe it is his most important, was here in collaboration with Yahowah to resolve the really identity crisis that was plaguing Dowd. Dowd became far too interested in the lusts of life as opposed to the love of his life, who was Yahowah. He became belligerent against God. In fact, I'm going to share something with you in this psalm that I never thought I would ever come to this position, because I have such a low regard for Adam and such a high regard for Dowd. But as we consider how lethargic Dowd became when he was lounging around all day while his subjects were off fighting a war, and how he became a voyeur and an alcoholic, and then when given the chance to come clean and resolve these problems, doubled down and passed blame to God, took no responsibility for it. He reminds me a lot in this particular mode of Adam long ago. And so this was a real crisis of identity. It had to be resolved. Had it not been resolved, essentially the human experiment would have come to a crashing halt. There'd have been no opportunity for the fulfillment of Pesach, Matz, and Bakurim. And with the Moedim unfulfilled, there'd be no chance of establishing the covenant or of anyone living past this life, including Dowd. And so it becomes one of the most essential interventions of all time. And this is particularly true because Dowd and Yahowah were no longer on a talkative basis. They had stepped apart from one another. Yahowah only communicated to Dowd through an intermediary, that being Nathan. And even here, the 89th Mizmowr is being delivered by Ethan Ha Ezrachy, not spoken directly to Dowd. And so to resolve that problem, God had an ingenious plan. That plan involved him inserting a man and woman, a husband and wife, who would serve as surrogate parents, father and mother, for the very Son of God, for the most important man who ever lived, the King of Israel, to restore his relationship with Yahowah so that he could recover from his tragic mistake in judgment, come to embrace his destiny, and fulfill in his second of three lies, Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. So this was the challenge, and the document that caused it to happen was the 89th Mizmowr. It is being delivered to Dowd sometime after his 56th birthday, and I would say probably right around his 60th year. Things went south for Dowd even after this Bathsheba incident. He suffered all manner of calamities, and I don't think they were resolved quickly. So I would suspect that Dowd was over 60 by the time that he was visited by his surrogate parents, and this manner of rebellion against his father, Yahowah, was resolved. What we're going to hear in this Mizmowr is initially Ethan Ha Ezrachy speaking about God's character, his nature. He's going to introduce what he deems to be Yahweh's most important characteristics: loyalty, devotion, and love, along with trustworthiness, integrity, and reliability. Probably 4 times over in his presentation of Yahweh. And he's doing so because his message to Dowd has no merit apart from Yahweh's inspiration of it. It all hinges on who Yahweh is. Ethan is the delivery boy. He is, well, the delivery man. He's serving as Dowd's father at this point. But he is conveying this message from Yahweh to his son. And the only way that it has credibility is to acknowledge Yahweh's credibility and devotion to his son, his steadfastness in this regard. In the early statements, we're going to find Ethan talk about himself and who he represents, so that Dowd understands that the man speaking to him isn't one of his subjects. He is very close to Dowd's equal. He has skin in the game. He is one who will suffer as Dowd has suffered. He will fulfill the Moed Mikre. He will write as Dowd has written. He will lead as Dowd has led. He will be inspired as Dowd was inspired. He is as close to Dowd as anyone will or has ever been. And so he talks about himself, and he does so to garner Dowd's attention and trust. For Dowd to know he is not in this alone. In the earlier program in the Ocean Studio today, I hinted at something that even my wife came in just a few minutes ago and said, "What in the world were you talking about at the end of that show?" Where I said that it's my conclusion, based upon what I'm hearing in the 12th Mizmowr, that it is highly likely that when Yahweh allowed Dowd to fulfill his destiny and to serve as the Pesach El, and then take our guilt into Sheol on Matzah, that he did not go alone. Once Yahweh brought Leah and I in, and this is Leah and I, to support Dowd at this time in this way. We bonded with him as no one else in his life. We essentially became his mother and father. And there is no way in the world that we would have allowed him to go fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim in his second of 3 lives alone. And so there is the high likelihood that we were there. And I did, in the break, in addition to continuing to translate and work upon the 89th Mizmowr, I'm a little over, or not quite 2/3 finished with it. We're going to start here with the dedication in this program. So at least I'm ahead of where we are on this program. I did turn to the 22nd Mizmowr. And I was right. I think we were there, but most certainly I was there to support Dowd. And so with that in mind, I'd like to introduce this Marvelous song again. I've always considered it to be Dowd's song. It was composed for him, but it's also composed for us. It is a song that completely destroys Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And only someone who has spent the time that I have repudiating those religions, having written 13 books, each averaging about 750 pages, citing a comparison between God's testimony and the false prophet of Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, would be able to fully appreciate just how devastating this 89th Mizmowr is to those religions. They don't survive it. This eviscerates them. And it's why I quoted it in all of them, because it is essential to negating them. But it also establishes exactly who Dowd is. He is the Son of God. He is the anointed Messiah. He is the Passover lamb and therefore our Savior. He is the chosen one. He is the one through whom the covenant was literally established. It's extraordinary what it says of him. He was the one through whom God chose to work, his co-worker. It leaves no room for anyone else in that regard. So now that we know the identity of the man conveying Dowd's song and collaborating in the writing of it on behalf of his father, and his collaboration, by the way, takes us through about the first 15 or so statements, maybe closer to 20 statements, when there is one, and the first 20, there is one statement that's directly from Yahowah. It just come out with a kaboom. This is who Dowd is. And then it says some remarkable things that I had no knowledge of prior, that brings us to today about the things that Yahowah will do through Ethan Ha Ezrachy. And then after he explains that, God picks up the narrative. And in the range of 20 statements in a row, every one is in Yahowah's voice. And so that is the pace of this. Ethan Ha Ezrachy does the introduction. He tells us about Yahowah. He tells us about himself. Yahowah makes a profoundly important declaration about Dowd. And then we return to the Ethan describing what he knows of Yahowah and what he perceives of Dowd and what he will do in his life in support of him. And then we turn to full blast Yahowah. It becomes amazingly brilliant. I thought that the parts that I had written were reasonably astute, but God is infinitely more articulate. He is just, let me tell you the way it is. So it's time now that we venture back into the ultimate Mizmowr, the greatest song ever sung. I see it not only as the cornerstone of the covenant, and it indeed is, and of Yahowah's home on earth, but it's also the keystone of God's message and my mission. I think it was inspired and written sometime at least 8 years before the 60th Yobel year in 3000 Yah, but it could have been written as early as 14 years prior to that time, and therefore on or around the 60th birthday of Dowd, when he was 60 years old. He would end his first of 3 lives at 70. So at 60, he would have 10 years to process all of this. It could not have been written any earlier in his life than that. Could have been written a little later. And so it was written maybe 4 to 14 years prior to 968 BCE. The 89th Psalm, I think, is the epitome of divine prose, when Yahowah takes over the microphone, if you will, takes center stage. I do my best to introduce him. Once he takes over, it is kaboom. It is just magic. It's extraordinary. Literally the most important piece of literature ever written. Now, this is a Maskyl, according to Ethan Ha Ezrachy, which is a portrayal of insights to contemplate and comprehend, and it delivers. It was composed, as I have said, by a man who introduces himself as Ethan, the reoccurring one, who is often deployed. He is Ha Ezrachy, the tree of logical expressions. It is a Maskyl, a poetic portrayal of insights to comprehend and contemplate. Maskyl is prudent lyrics written to convey important ideas worthy of thoughtful consideration. This word is a compound of ma, which is to ponder important questions regarding shakal, being circumspect, being sensible, gaining insights and prospering from them, paying attention to understand while learning to comprehend. This is a exercise between the ears. This is a thinking person's poem. And it was scribed by, and it's of, concerning, according to, and on behalf of Ethan, the perpetually reoccurring, the resolute, the continually deployed, the eternally engaged, and the long established and perennially unrelenting productive one. Ethan, steadfast and everlasting, steady, resolute, profuse, continuous, permanent, perpetual, consistent, enduring, and routinely used. Ha Ezrachy, the one springing up and coming forth as a tree. If you don't know that metaphor, he is the tree of knowledge. And he directs our attention to the tree of lives, who is Dowd. So the one springing up and coming forth as a tree, prepared to shine on time with logical expressions on the sequence of events. Ha Ezrachy, the one arising out of the soil, spontaneously growing and reborn to be rational while supplying chronological and sequential, temporal and timely, historical expressions. It is from Oz at that time, simultaneous with these events, Azar, mightily prepared and girded in strength, equipped as a strong arm, properly adorned and trained. Zerach, to rise up and shine, to come forth and appear bright, and akin to Ezroah, the strong arm and powerful Zeroah. Mizmowr, Psalm 89, that is the dedication. Unlike any other, nothing even remotely comparable to it. It is as we had thought. It is a Maskyl. It's a comprehensive portrayal of rationally derived insights. This is delivered for Dowd, for Israel, and for the world to know, to comprehend, and to share. As for Mr. Ethan Ha Ezrachy, well, he is as Yahowah has named him. And here, as Ethan opens by sharing his life's journey in God's presence, he wants us to know that Yahowah is God's name, that he is loving, and that Yahowah has remained consistent throughout time. That will be central to his message. We are being renewed and reassured here that as God was in the garden, as he was with Noah, and as he was with Abraham, he is now with Dowd and will forever be. It is Yahweh's Chesed, steadfast devotion to those he favors, that impressed our time traveler more than anything else about God. When I say time traveler, well, he was inserted in and out of God's timeline to help keep his people and plan apace. He only moves one way in time, never back. Anyway, he thinks that the Chesed is essential to knowing God. He wants us to know that he will be singing about Yahweh forevermore as Yada, such that everyone is aware that our God is Emunah, trustworthy and reliable. And this means that he isn't capricious, thereby negating all of the so-called Abrahamic religions, which are predicated on change. We have Perry just arrived for a visit, and he is being assaulted by Asher, who is treating him like he is somebody that she has known for a century, her best friend ever. So don't want my dog indicted for rape, but she's pushing the boundaries at this point. So I have chosen to continually share, it says, my life's journey in a song. Share. Remember when a couple of programs ago, and we were reading how share was associated with Ethan Ha Ezrachy? I said, remember that word. It's going to come up in the first statement, opening statement, if you will, in the Maskyl, in this 89th Mizmowr. I have chosen to continually share my life's journey in a song. It is my ongoing and continuous desire to convey the nature of my travels while always singing, from shore to travel on the journey while expressing the itinerary. This is called imperfect cohortative, first person singular. So it says that this is something that Ethan has chosen to do. It's under the auspices of free will. And in the imperfect, it says that it's something he is doing continually, consistently. This isn't his first time to share his life journey or to sing a song about the loyal love, steadfast devotion, enduring favoritism, and genuine mercy, the chesed, the kindness, the zeal, the mutual obligation to provide benefits, and the affection of Yahowah, of God's one and only name. It's transliterated here based upon his Haya, existence, and his Torah instructions. Ethan Ha Ezrachy knew it, and so should you. From antiquity into futurity, forever, throughout time, beginning long ago and into perpetuity, infinitely and eternally, on behalf of generation after generation, the dwelling places and the family lineage throughout time. Opening statement continues with, I, Yada, will consistently make known. I will always remain aware of, acknowledge, respect, and reveal, demonstrating that I am Yada, familiar with, concerned about, devoted to understanding and conveying what I have learned. Hiffle, imperfect, first person, singular, meaning also ongoing. And encouraging you to appreciate, therefore, Yahweh's, your trustworthiness and dependability. Emunah. It is the first of 4 times that he will report on God's Emunah, his honesty and reliability, Yahweh's firm and steadfast commitment to the truth. Emunah is the feminine of emun, unwavering dependability, pursuant to a trustworthy and reliable nature. It is from Aman, to support, confirm, uphold, nourish, foster, establish, and make firm. that which is verifiable and sure, as the steady right-handed worker who is providing certain verification with my mouth. Ma pe ani, in my speech and in my words. I'm going to share some insights with that, with all of this in a moment, but it is so much to process. I'd like to read it through one more time, and let's get a kind of word's eye view of the opening statement. It begins, I have chosen to continually share my life's journey in the song. Speaking about the loyal love, the steadfast devotion, the enduring favoritism, the kindness, the sense of mutual obligation to provide benefits, and the affection of Yahowah. Doing so from antiquity into futurity, forever, throughout all time, beginning long ago and into perpetuity. On behalf of generation after generation, the dwelling places and family lineage throughout all time, Dor wa Dor. And so I, Yada, will consistently make known. I will always remain aware of, acknowledge, respect, and reveal, demonstrating that as Yada I am familiar with, concerned about, and devoted to, understanding and conveying your trustworthiness and dependability. Emunah, your honesty and reliability, your firm and steadfast commitment to the truth. With my mouth and my speech and with my words. That was Mizmowr Psalm 89:1. Pretty extraordinary introduction and opening statement. So the Song of Songs is a love song. It expresses Yahweh's enduring devotion to his people, to his beloved son, and conveys what Ethan Ha Ezrachy has come to know of the God that he has served at this point for millennia. Now, unfortunately, it was unrequited love because Yisrael didn't reciprocate. Even the man who was the most Dowd beloved had at this point turned a cold shoulder to God. Fortunately, Yahweh's patience would outlast his sons and his people's recalcitrance. One has been resolved, the other will be. But more than Chesed, loving and merciful, according to Yada, the one who knew more about God at this point than any other, for having spent more time with Yahweh than any other, his view is that God is also resolutely Emunah, honest, unwavering, steadfast. And so in his opening line, the greatest Maskyl, poetic portrayal of insights to comprehend and contemplate, Ethan Ha Ezrachy affirms the three things that are the most important for us to know about God. He is eternally loving and devoted, trustworthy, and dependable. It wasn't all that long ago, but sometimes we forget. When introducing Ethan Ha Ezrachy, God said, and so his name, proper designation, reputation, and renown, his calling and his conspicuous position will exist throughout time among all of the Goyim, the non-Yisraelites who will turn around and who are being brought around. So he conveyed, narrating 30 instructive Mashal, 30 word pictures as memorable parables and wise proverbs to inspire astute leadership. And his songs about his journey through life will be 5, each bullish for the tribe, learned and instructive, empowering 1,000-fold. That was from Malachim, 1 Kings 4:32. as I had suspected. This is that sure. Now, throughout my prolonged journey through life, I have been devoted to sharing what I've come to know and experience of Yahweh's chesed, his love, his devotion, his favoritism. My Father, the Father of the covenant, is kind. He's affectionate. He's loyal. He's approachable. He's enjoyable to be around. I'm telling you what I know of him. I'm prejudiced. I love him. To appreciate and experience God's love, however, one must first come to know that God's one and only name is Yahweh. It is the Shem name he introduced, explained, and shared in Shemoth Names Exodus in his Torah teaching. And so it is interesting that after 25 centuries of it being erased, I was the first to bring it to the forefront again. And not only did I return Yahweh's name to where it had been wrongly removed by the religious, I systematically demonstrated its proper pronunciation in the opening volume of An Introduction to God. Every book in our quarter century of collaboration bears our names, Yada, Yahweh. Olam is ideally suited for Ethan Ha Ezrachy because his mission doesn't just address the future. Its primary meaning of Olam actually speaks of the distant past, providing a continuum throughout time. Olam is from antiquity into futurity. It is from Chanok in the beginning to Ethan at the midpoint, continuing on to Yada, the Nakar, Choder, and Adama Paran, the end. It is a continuum. The realization that this Maskyl, comprehensive portrayal of sensible insights, is for Dor wa Dor, generation to generation, means that it is for all people, all places throughout time. Written a millennium before the Talmud and the New Testament, it negates both while affirming Yahweh's love and his reliability. Now, while Yahweh wasn't scribed in the infinitive or in the participle in this case, it was written in the imperfect. So making the acknowledgement of Yada wasn't necessary, but since it is my sure song and journey, well, I felt at liberty to report what I had written as intended. It is true that I have and will continue to make known, acknowledging and revealing Yahweh's steadfast commitment to the truth. I, Yada, know that Yahweh is Emunah, trustworthy and dependable, unwavering and reliable. But even more than this, it is Yada's life and his mission to Aman, to support, confirm, uphold, foster, and verify Yahweh's nature, as he reported it to us. As the Aman, steady right-handed worker, providing this affirmation, I want everyone to celebrate the marvelous attributes of the God that I've come to know and love. And should you be among those who chafe at the notion that God would appoint someone to this role and that he could be living among you now, please note, what did it say? Ethan is singing Yahweh's praises with his mouth, not God's. Clearly, this song was inspired by Yahweh. However, like everything else God conveyed through one of his prophets, it was written, spoken, and delivered by someone of Yahweh's choosing. Ethan Ha Ezrachy was afforded the liberty to convey what he had come to yada. No, it is God's custom. It's his standard operating procedure. He isn't going to change just because of the importance of this particular song. Now, while God will speak directly through this time traveler and to us in first person, the first 5 sentences are all in Yada's voice, as are the next 10 following the interjection of Yahweh's initial assessment of his son. And in this regard, I'd like to let you in on a seldom considered secret that can be witnessed in this narrative. When Dowd or I speak in first person singular, rather than first person masculine singular, it is because our nephesh soul is doing the work and conveying the message to you, and then nephesh is feminine. So while we are masculine, our soul, being feminine, necessitates this insightful subtlety. It's found throughout Dowd's Mizmowr. He is particularly astute in saying so, and well, so was Ethan Ha Ezrachy. So it's all designed to reward the reader with the realization that our nephesh, life and soul, and even our Bachar bodies can die. Our nephesh can live when our bodies die. And this is part of that message. It's why so much of it's conveyed in a manner that doesn't mention gender. Now, moving from the first stanza to the second, the subject remains the same. Ethan Ha Ezrachy realizes that everything he has to share at the midpoint of man's journey out of the garden and back to Eden is predicated on Yahweh's love and trustworthiness. Without these two things, he's just whistling in the breeze. Nothing of value matters or can be derived from any of this without Yahweh's love and trustworthiness. Said another way, should someone discount or demean what I have shared in this eternal mission, speaking on behalf of Yahweh, or contravene the intent of this Maskyl, they are simultaneously foreclosing on the benefits that are attributable to both the Chesed and the Emunah of God. There is a very specific and narrow path to Yahweh, which is only found in His Beryth covenant, as presented in His Torah guidance, through His Moedim, restoring witnesses, all of which was delineated and explained in Yada Yahweh. It is the only way to Shamayim, heaven. Now, with that said and assessed, here is the second statement. Yes, indeed. Key, it is surely true that I express in words, throughout antiquity and for an unlimited duration of time, olam, loyalty, devotion, and love will be built up and they will be established for Shamayim, for the spiritual realm of the heavens. Shamayim is the lofty and elevated abode of God in the seventh dimension. It's a cognative shama, to listen, shamar, to observe, and shem, name. You will continually establish and consistently authenticate your unwavering trustworthiness, your integrity, and your reliability. Emunah again. Your fidelity and dependability, your honesty and consistency, your firm and steadfast commitment to the truth. In them, speaking of them being what? The spiritual realm, the heavens. Heavens is always plural. In Hebrew, Shamayim is always Shamaim, which means there's a multi-dimensional nature to, and the existence of a plethora of opportunities existing in the spiritual realm. It's always plural. All right, so the lyrics that Ethan Ha Ezrachy penned at this crucial juncture, literally when the fate of the world hung on his and its success. We don't succeed here. None of the Moed Mizmowr are fulfilled. There's no hope for humankind. The planet spins into the abyss. So this was a critical juncture in time. The fate of the world literally hung on the success of this message, Dowd's response to it. And all of this was composed on behalf of the most important man who would ever live. In other words, we prevailed. The moment the ink dried, he would present this message to King Dowd, God's beloved son, a once bright and bold man who had fallen and was struggling to get up on his own. But God would not allow him to stay down. As we know in the last Mashal, Yahowah's Amma made this subsequent meeting with Dowd possible. She's the one that set it up. Because she let her son know in no uncertain terms that he was too important to allow temporal fixations and poor judgment, alcoholism and depression, lethargy even, and lust deprive the world of all that he had to offer. Yes, he was human, but he would soon be extraordinary again. Then, once he was receptive and thinking, he became the first to hear Ethan's message as it was delivered to the king. So, it bears repeating. The Dowd song is introduced with the chorus of three essential words. Chesed, enduring devotion and favoritism, loyalty. Olam, from antiquity into futurity, along the entire continuum of time. And Emunah, being unwavering and reliable. That is the message that Ethan delivered to Dowd about what he knew about Yahowah. Now, based upon the narrative that's presented in 2 Samuel 6, there is every reason to suspect that Ethan Ha Ezrachy had been on station for a score of years prior to the revelation of this song, likely ever since he had served as Obed Edom, the one serving humankind, all to facilitate bringing the Ark of the Covenant home after Dowd began feuding with God. If you recall, God had arranged for a bull to pull the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem and properly position it on the Temple Mount. And a man intervened and thought he knew better and tried to help it along. And God says, no, you're not going to hear my story. And he killed him. And Dowd had a conniption fit, saying, now that you killed this guy, I think you did a wrong thing. I think it was unjustified, and I'm giving up. I'm out of here. It's your problem now. And he walked away. Not his best move. And the problem was resolved because Yahowah had positioned Obed Edom. Obed means the one who works. Edom speaks of mankind, so the one who works for man. He had set him up such that he took responsibility for the Ark of the Covenant. And marvelous things happened as a result. Dowd became aware of that there was someone there to help him relocate that Ark. And so, as a result of this, the king has been witnessed by Obed Edom, now Ethan Ha Ezrachy, during his best and at his worst. And he knows that it is essential to anchor these attestations of restoration upon the very certainty of Yahweh's integrity and devotion. Dowd had, for a time, forfeited both. Yahweh had not. And this is the way that Ethan reintroduced God to his son. Therefore, Ethan, noted for his prolific wisdom and for his pen, as we have read, introduced his lead witness by telling us that Yahweh, as God, is the most credible claimant in the universe. Yes, this is a court. And the presentation here is that you've got the attorney on behalf of God calling his chief witness, God himself. And he is the most credible witness in the universe. And as a result, we accept what follows for our benefit. We discount it at our peril. And as it was with Dowd, so it is with us. Now, according to Yahweh, those who reject his robust appraisal of King Dowd will die. Worse, those who steal what God said about his son to transfer the king's acclaim to a religious myth rather than being Jesus, or to promote the inception of Judaism with Rabbi Akiva's Bar Kokhba, son of a star, that you need to know that the religious promoting such counterfeit messiahs are going to engender God's wrath. There has never been, nor will there ever be, a more adroit condemnation of Christianity or Judaism than is on display in the 89th Psalm. It provides a lethal blow to both of them. Ethan, the continuously deployed Ha Ezrachy source of logical expressions, with Yahweh's inspiration and enormous personal contribution as well, composed this Maskyl, portrait of insights to contemplate and comprehend, to save the world by restoring the confidence and conviction of the man who would open the door to Shamayim by fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. We're given access to Yahweh's enduring love and devotion. He was doing so, door wa door, for everyone, everywhere, forevermore. Yes, I oughta know this to be Emunah, trustworthy and true. Olam, from that moment to this and into forevermore. Well, this is Yahweh's message. Ethan was delivering it. And while serving as God's delivery boy that's a pretty nice gig with some handsome benefits, my contributions are fairly minimal, certainly by comparison. You'll notice as we move through this Mashal and we transition from me introducing the star witness, if you will, as Yahweh, and speaking of his credentials, to the time that Yahweh speaks for himself, he takes it up several notches. Yahweh is really on his game. It's just amazing how brilliant Yahweh is in what he has to say. You'll notice a real difference between my voice and his. Do my best, but he does better. And, well, that's, I think, a key part of the concept here. In comparison to God, because he is the inspiration behind it, we are simply conveyors of the message, but God doesn't work in a way to dictate anything. He wants us to add our own thoughts, our own perspectives. I think it makes the message more reachable, more appealing, something that is more relatable. When we do as Moshe did throughout Verbatim, he took what God shared with him, contemplated it, came to understand it, and shared what he thought it meant to the lives of the people listening to him and to our lives today. That is Ethan's job in the introduction of this marvelous 89th Mizmowr. Therefore, to challenge this message is to contend with the Almighty. He inspired it. He enabled it. To refute it or to reassign it is actually to earn an express ticket to Sheol, to hell. So fair warning. As best as I can tell, I have been doing this job for a very long time, beginning around 600 years after our expulsion from Eden. So, beginning around 5,400 years ago. I don't think I look too bad for someone 5,400 years old, but what the heck. I was, according to the introductions, a son of Adam, man of the earth, by way of Sheth, stationed and appointed to perform as Enosh, a human being, Kenan, jealously, zealously, Mashal, reflecting the light of God. During Yered, the descent, terrible time, under the moniker of Chanuk, the one who is prepared, dedicated, and deployed. Thereafter, approaching year 1000 Yah, God removed my soul, keeping me with him until redeploying me as my Dowd in support of Moshe in circa 1447 BCE. Then for this occasion in 1000 BCE, I was initially inserted to assist in the relocation of the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. I needed the practice, I suppose. I'll try to do a good job here in anywhere from 4 to 7 years' time. And I did this as Dowd approached his 40th birthday and delivered this message 20 years thereafter. Now, having witnessed his gradual and then precipitous decline, I was commissioned to intervene sometimes after Shalomo was born and at the conclusion of the Absalom rebellion. This Dowd song is in collaboration, of course, with Yahowah, and it's the crowning achievement of my lives up to this point. And in fact, without it, there would be no purpose to my life now or yours. We have a lot riding on this. I don't know your proclivity pursuant to my role or to me, but in this case, you want to be rooting for what I'm doing here. Should I not prevail, there's no opportunity for us to ever leave this blue marble spinning in the darkness of space alive. So right on cue, following this affirming introduction, Yahowah speaks directly to us for the first time. He will do so. He will just lay it all on the line and a couple of amazing statements, and then he will withdraw for a moment and reestablish our relationship and frame the issue, if you will. Let me reaffirm his credentials, and then we go to all Yah all the time. So, God begins in this statement, his opening statement in this Mizmowr, obliterating religion on behalf of the relationship he desires. The Beryth covenant is the centerpiece of the Torah, and Dowd is the cornerstone upon which it is established. As such, this is among the most profoundly important statements ever made. God himself said, I have established cutting through separation, qara-karat. I have created making a resolution by cutting off, as is in the case with circumcision, the sign of the covenant. a solemn agreement between parties with stipulations, responsibilities, and benefits. The Beryth covenant for the family. The family-oriented relationship agreement, which brings individuals together with action, commitment, and engagement, all in accordance with the stipulations required of both parties to the agreement. It is from Be'eth, family, home, and household. Doing so through my Bachar, my chosen one, my individual, this individual that I have chosen to do as I want, a person I have personally decided upon, the one I prefer, that I selected, under the auspices of free will, for he is the one I favor most of all, for a special relationship and great affection. It's from the Hebrew word Bachar, and it means to choose and decide, and makan, to test, to examine, and to scrutinize. It is not the first time we will see this verb. And it's important that you know that it doesn't just mean to choose. It says that Dowd is not only the chosen one, but that he was tested, he was examined, and he was scrutinized by God and was able to prove himself worthy. I have sworn an oath, God says, and I will affirm this promise 7 times over. Shabbat to Dowd. Ebed Any, my authorized agent and co-worker, who serves with me, my colleague. That's Mizmowr, Psalm 89:3. Profound, unequivocal. So now that God has made this announcement, for those who are rational, the counterfeit hoax of Christianity, its New Testament, and their man-God Jesus, it's over. There is only one covenant, not two, negating the New Testament. It was established with King Dowd, not Jesus Christ, rendering the Christian God nothing more than a cheap counterfeit. And the chosen one, he's Dowd. The prophetic promise is undeniably directed towards the former and returning king of Yisrael, rather than to a figment of Paul's perverted imagination. Context is always king, and in context, Yahowah has very clearly stated that that is his name. He works with and he communicates through men. Dowd is just the foremost among them. What he inspires from heaven, it never changes. His Torah and Nabiim are inalterable, making him and them trustworthy and reliable. And with these affirmations, Yahowah nullified Jesus and the New Testament, the rabbinical Hashim and the Talmud, because they need God to be capricious. In these statements, two from Ethan Ha Ezrachy and another directly from Yahowah, their collaboration reversed the damage the king had done to his standing with God. They closed the door on the justifications for Christianity and Judaism and their false messiahs, and reacquainted Dowd with his purpose in life. Working together, they established the foundation upon which these books, Yada Yahowah, would be written. And to think, 55 statements remain, all of which will burnish Dowd's sterling resume and reaffirm Yahowah's standing as our God. So with tongue-in-cheek, I say, scoot over a smidge, Yashaya, so that maybe I can settle down next to you. This Ethan Ha Ezrachy fellow has a way with words too. Sure, he's 2,400 years old at this point, so he's had some practice, and he's been in and out of heaven twice already, giving him a head start. But nonetheless, for his first go at prophecy, it's a reasonably impressive opening salvo. All right. Back to the task at hand, and before I bruise my hand, gratuitously patting myself on the back, according to God, and he is in the best position to know, a line has been drawn in the sands of time. A person can accept Dowd as the individual with whom Yahowah chose to work alongside to establish his covenant family, or, well, they will die apart from him and it. And since all 5 benefits of the Beryth are offered through the first 3 Moedim, restoring witnesses, Pesach, Matz, and Makudim, well, this means that Dowd fulfilled them. That's direct, unequivocal, powerful, relevant. So this is the end of the line for alternative views. It bears repeating. There is no quarter remaining for the likes of Peter and Paul, Akiba and Maimonides, for a New Testament or a Talmud. Yahowah's plan and his players are as presented in the books bearing Yahowah's name, and nowhere else apart from the Torah, Nabiim, or Mizmowr. The covenant is the centerpiece, and Dowd is now established as the cornerstone for our mutual benefit. So it is also affirming to know that the Beryth covenant is Yahowah's family. Now, this is affirmed by its root, Be'eth, family, home, and household. The concept is as simple as it is profound, really. So there is nothing remotely religious about any of this. Our Father wants to raise, to support his children, and then explore the universe with us. He created all of this for us to enjoy together. And to be among those children, a person must be sufficiently observant and thoughtful to know him. They must respond to him. And they must demonstrate that they can be trusted with the enormity of what he is offering. This is a relationship. And a one-sided relationship is an oxymoron. The fact that the Beryth covenant has been qara-karat, cut, reinforces a number of realizations. And one of them is that those who become part of it are separated from the world and unto God. This is a dividing line. You're on one side or the other. You're cut in or cut out. Karat cutting also directs our attention, of course, to circumcision, which is the sign of the covenant. There's also, I think, a lesson to be learned by Bachar, chosen one. Loving and mutually beneficial relationships are based upon free will. Yahowah can express his, just as we're free to convey ours. He chose Dowd. I'd recommend making a similar decision. In fact, that is why I'm here, and I'm inviting you to join me. Bashir Dowd. Choose Dowd. God did. You should. And while that decision is yours, I know that it comes with a consequence depending on which you decide. The further one goes down an opposing path, the darker the alternatives become, particularly in Christianity and Judaism, and of course in Islam as well. The Beryth with Dowd leads to Shamayim. None of the alternatives do. Damning for them, Christians not only promote the impostor Jesus, they stole Dowd's God-given title of chosen one. And Jews came to prefer Shaul over Dowd and later Bar as a preferred Messiah, even as they parade around today under his star. However, unlike the case with Dowd, there are no promises ever directed at a Jesus or a Bar. Neither are ever mentioned, not by God. One was a myth, the other a fraud. Dowd is the exemplar of the relationship, where the other two religious, just nothing more than religious obstacles tossed in the way to it. One name was mentioned here. Well, there's only two in this entire Mizmowr, a man who co-authored it with Yahowah and Dowd, the one about whom it was written. No one else. Yahowah's Shabbat, in this statement, his sworn oath and binding promise, is to Dowd. It's not up for debate. No one asked your opinion. It is not transferable. God is on record stating that his Torah guidance, that throughout it, that he would speak and act through men of his choosing. Dowd is simply foremost among us. Should you want to know what Yahowah revealed regarding his will, his purpose, well, you need to pay attention to what Yahowah said and did through Dowd. If you want to benefit from what they achieved on behalf of the Beryth, well, you need to know how they fulfilled the Moedim, which enable those benefits. By using Ebed Any, my coworker, well, God is on record stating that he promised to do something exceptional with Dowd, which we have discerned to be fulfilling the spring Mikra, invitations to be called out and meet. By announcing his binding oath, Yahowah is confirming that everything he has and will say regarding Dowd is true, including what follows, affirming that Dowd is the Messiah and the Son of God. It means that when our King fulfilled Pesach and Matzah, delivering the benefits of Bikurim, he was working with Yahowah. It also suggests that there is a direct connection between Dowd, the Beryth covenant family, the Moedim, the restoring witnesses, and Yahowah's Torah teaching. They're interwoven. One doesn't exist without the other. And as an interesting aside, Ebed, worker, was scribed identically in the Hebrew text to Obed. Did you know that? As in Obed Edom. Further, Edom is from Adam, and Adam means bloody red man. Therefore, Obed Edom is the man responsible for assisting Dowd, the man, when bringing the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, and he is aptly named, working for the man, serving mankind. Sometimes it's more important that we know what the names mean than just knowing how to pronounce them. The man Obed Edom, now as Ethan Ha Ezrachy, just a different description of the same individual, was devoted to serving Dowd, the beloved chosen one, Yahowah's co-worker. Dowd, by the way, is spelled and pronounced as I have shared it with you. The three letters in Paleo-Hebrew were drawn as a deleth, which forms a doorway to a home, and with a wah in between them, which is a tent peg, securing and enlarging the tabernacle. So in a name, Dowd opens the doors to God's heavenly home, as well as to life. Should you wish to argue against the message Yahowah and I are sharing with you, that is your option. Billions of Christians and millions of Jews have done so. However, it will cost all of them their soul. So after affirming, 1, a Maskyl is a prophetic and poetic portrayal of insights to contemplate and comprehend. 2, this Maskyl was composed by Ethan, the perpetually reoccurring, the resolute one who is continuously deployed and eternally engaged. 3, Ha Ezrachy is described as springing up and coming forth as a tree, prepared to shine on time with logical expressions on the sequence of events. 4, he chose to share his life's journey with you in this song. 5, Yahowah is God's name. 6, Yahowah is Chesed. He is loyal, he is devoted, and he is loving. 7, Yahowah's message is Olam. It's from antiquity and into futurity, forevermore, unchanged. 8, Yahowah is addressing every door, generation, place, and time. 9, Yada knows Yahowah. Yada, Yahowah. 10, Yahowah is Emunah. He's trustworthy and dependable. 11, Yahowah conveyed this message through the pay of Yada. 12, Shamayim, heaven, is Bana. It's built Olam forevermore on Chesed, loyalty and love. 13, Yahowah, Kun. He establishes and authenticates his Emunah, his trustworthiness, his integrity, and his reliability. 14, Yahowah, Karat. He established the Beryth covenant through karat, separation. 15, Yahowah Karat created the Beryth covenant with and for and through Dowd, the beloved. 16, Yahowah's Bachar, chosen one, is Dowd. 17, Yahowah's Ebed, co-worker, is Dowd. 18, Yahowah's Shabbat, promised one, is Dowd. And this enormity of vital information and affirmations is based upon the introduction and the initial 3 statements in this, the 89th Mizmowr. And God continued speaking to us through Ethan Ha Ezrachy, adding the following informations in the 4th statement. 19 is that it is through the the restoring witness, that Yahowah Olam, eternally Kun, establishes what is called Dowd, seed, his offspring, what he has sown, Zerah. 20, therefore, the Zerah offspring of the Beryth covenant comprise Dowd's family. 21, the Zerah seeds that Zerah sowed make the covenant possible. 22, Yahowah Bana built Dowd's Chesed throne. 23, the Chesed, this seat of honor, will remain everywhere and forever throughout all Dowr generations. And 24, it is time we Selah, pause and ponder the implications. And this is the basis for the last of those conclusions. God said, forevermore, as an eternal witness to the restoring testimony, ad olam, I will prepare and establish. I will appoint, equip, develop, support, and sustain your offspring and that which you sow, Zerah Atah. In addition, I have constructed for your throne and your seat of honor, your authority, on behalf of all generations, generation to generation, for dwelling places and family lineage throughout time. Shalom. Pause now and contemplate those implications. I will make a bigger deal of this later, but I do want to bring this to your attention. And we are nearing the end of this program, so we'll conclude with this statement from God. Keshe, always just simply translated as throne. But that's not its verbal root and not always what it means. Do you know that I think it's in the 81st Mizmowr? Keshe is used when Dowd says that we should blow the trumpet, sound the shofar at the new moon and at the full moon. The new moon would be on Teruah. The full moon would be on Pesach, on Matzah, on Bikurim, and on Sukkah. And he said this is something that we should do and learn from, benefit from forevermore. So it does mean full moon. And who is the full moon that's associated with Dowd? Who is the lesser luminary reflecting the greater luminary's light? That very same Yada. But that's not all Keshe means. It's based upon a verb which means to cover, to conceal. What did Dowd do on Matzah? He concealed our guilt by carrying it into the black hole of Sheol to deposit it there, never to be seen again. You know the basis of Kippurim when Dowd returns? Kapar, it means to cover. So in his throne, there are symbols of all that God's going to do with and associated around Dowd to establish that seat of honor. And it's God that constructed all of this. He built it. He built it on behalf of every generation, every dwelling place throughout time. And he says, pause now and contemplate those implications. Well, in our next program, we're going to return to this very passage, and then we're going to even explore more that can be deduced from it. It is a great joy to be celebrating the 89th Mizmowr with you, particularly from this perspective, particularly at this time, particularly after all that we have learned. And I feel like we are literally in the middle of a deluge of understanding, and it is a joy to be able to share it. Thank you for listening. Look forward to being with you tomorrow.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.